Hey guys, I just want to let you know before we get into this episode that we've partnered with Band Builder Academy. Band Builder Academy is the #1 place to grow your music career. Run by top label manager and Sony Vice President Todd McCarthy, so you know it's worth it. Enter promo code CONCERTS at checkout to receive 10% off membership.
Hi, I'm Andy Ross, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and that cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
On this episode, I'm joined by the fantastic country rocker Andy Ross. We chat about the many facets of his career, from his TV show Maximum Archery, all the way up to being the CEO of American Rebel. And of course we chat about his music career too. This is an incredibly interesting and inspiring episode. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Nurses on the night shift, drummer on a drum kit, ain't it red, white, and blue, doing their thing, playing their part, living the dream with an all-American heart. Big rig burning up the asphalt, blue collar on the line, small town teachers, Bible Belt preachers, under them stars and stripes, doing their thing, playing their part, living the dream with an all-American heart. From the south to the heartland, every woman and man, all living for the same thing. From back east to out west, just doing their best. Let that freedom ring. Oh, they're doing their thing. They're playing their part. Just living the dream with an all-American heart. So here's to everybody putting it all on the line, from state to state, pulling their weight, coming through every time. Yeah, doing their thing, playing their part, living the dream right from the start, with an all-American heart, with an all-American heart. Just living the dream with an all-American heart.
Andy Ross, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this for some time.
Yeah, it's been a while coming around. I've been looking forward to it myself. It's an honor to have someone with so many accomplishments under their belt appear on the podcast.
Well, thank you for that. I've been really blessed. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I've just had one, thing that I've worked on lead to the next, and it's been a fun ride.
Now, to name a couple of your achievements, you're a TV host, an outdoorsman, a musician, CEO. Your song Playing in Mud is the theme song for Fox Sports' GNCC Racing Series. How do you find any time in the day to do anything else?
Well, all those, a lot of those things you mentioned, not all of them happen necessarily simultaneously. So I had a TV show for 10 years on the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel, Pursuit Network called Maximum Archery. And I bow hunted the world 7 months out of the year, being filmed for 10 years. And it was quite a schedule. I had, about halfway through year 4, year 5 is when all these X Games came out, where all these kids were doing these fun things with skateboards and bicycles and motorcycles and snowmobiles, and video games were coming on. And I said to my cameraman, I said, kids aren't going to want to watch me sitting in a tree just going, hey, it's Tuesday, the wind's out of the west. We got to liven this thing up if we're going to compete with the other options that kids have today. So we changed the name from Maximum Archery to Maximum Archery World Tour. And we took all the species that we were hunting, the location and the dates, and we put them across the back of a T-shirt, like a concert shirt, like a Van Halen concert shirt or a Journey concert shirt back in the day. And I thought, I can play a little. I can probably write. Why don't we create some theme songs, some campfire songs, something to play when the opener, something to play at the credits, bumping in and out of commercials. And so I wrote some music, and the music was on the show, and that was the beginning of the music career. So as the music career escalated, I was winding down the TV show. So the TV show definitely birthed the music career. I had a lot of artists, national touring artists, especially in country music in Nashville, that watched my show because they were hunters. And they said, hey, I like your song this, but let me write one with you. And the next thing I knew, I was writing more music, and I was writing songs that didn't have anything to do with the show, that didn't have anything necessarily to do with hunting. I mean, in the beginning, I wrote Blood Trail on a Whitetail, Hunt Me Down, Support Your Local Wildlife, Gotta Go Hunting Blues. It was that kind of thing. But when I started writing with other writers, I started making real music, and iTunes came along and digital file sharing came along, and man, things just went viral, and all of a sudden I found myself with a real nice little music career going.
And before the TV show, did you have any interest in becoming a music star or a musician, or was it primarily you wanted to do the TV show?
I think I had the same dream that a lot of people have in high school. When you're that age, you imagine and daydream about being on the stage. When you go to concerts and stuff, and then it wasn't something that I was really pursuing or had my mind made up. I actually was an avid bow hunter, and I started making a bow, manufacturing a bow, and then the hunting TV became real popular, especially when digital video cameras came out that made it a lot easier than hauling around that big VCR. And hunting TV was real popular. Ralph and Vicky, Lee and Tiffany, Michael Waddell, David Blanton, the Drury Brothers, Primos, all these guys had these big shows. And I wanted one of them to shoot my bow on TV on one of their shows, but they wouldn't do it because they already had contracts with existing bow companies. I was a new kid on the block. My bow hadn't heard of it necessarily. And so I decided that I would hire a cameraman that had some experience, more than I had. He had done some film work for the Drury Brothers, and I took him on 4 hunts, and we filmed my 4 hunts, edited it to a DVD, and I put the DVD in the box with the bows. I'm just making bows. I'm not even thinking TV show, but they wouldn't shoot my bows. So I made a DVD to have something on, that somebody could watch the bow in action, if you will. And the network got a hold of it, the Outdoor Channel, about 4, 5, 6 months after that, and called me up and asked me if I wanted to do a TV show. So I ended up doing my own TV show, which wasn't what I set out to do. And then because I decided to, the TV show, when I changed it from Maximum Archery to Maximum Archery World Tour, we changed really the format of the show. It was still a hunting show, but we treated the hunting schedule like a tour. We were on tour, not a music tour, but we were on a tour of hunts making the show. And we started filming the travel, going into a bar and playing darts, doing laundry in some small town on an in-between hunting camps, and camaraderie around the campfire, and the trouble we almost got into. And the show became as much about the making of the show and the travel as it did the actual hunt. It was kind of a reality show before reality shows. And so the show became real popular. But again, wasn't trying to do a show. That just kind of happened. Then the show, because of the change I made, got real popular. And then when it was real popular, iTunes came out and my music started taking off. So that all of that led to to where I sit here today.
Yeah. One thing I love doing now is diving into my guests' history to see where they came from musically. So if you can now, can you tell us your very first musical memory?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up around music, maybe more so than a lot of kids, for two reasons. Number one, my dad manufactured guitar amps. That's the business he was in. So he was around a lot of musicians and a lot of artists, and he was a big music guy. So we always had music playing in the house, and especially from some of the bands that might have played his amps. And then my brother is 6 years older than me. My sister is 4.5 years older than me. So when you have an older brother and sister that's that many years older than you, you're young, but you're listening to their music because they're dominating the record player. We all didn't have our own record player. There was a big record player in the living room. And, the kids that I was running around with that were my age, they were listening to the Partridge Family and, who knows what. But my brother and sister were teenagers, and they were pumping down Fleetwood Mac and Bob Seger and the Eagles and Heart and, Steve Miller and those types of bands were what was being played that I was listening to, but I'm only 7 years old. So I got exposed to that scene early. And so, I'll never forget, just being around them. And then, of course, you might figure with a father who manufactures guitar amps and an older brother and sister, I got to start going to concerts probably earlier than a lot of kids. Because a lot of my friends, they were the oldest sibling in the family, and I was the youngest by 5 years. So my older brother and sister led me around a little bit. And I'll tell you, there were so many great experiences. This may not be my first, but I'll tell you one that just floored me at a young age. I lived in a small town called Chanute, Kansas. I hadn't moved to Kansas City yet. I was, 12, 13 years old, 14 maybe. And some kids from like the city, like from, I don't know, California or Chicago, when parents get transferred and they move into your small town, they bring music with them that you may not hear on your local small town kind of farm town radio station. And, and I got to listen to the stuff that the 80s rock that my brothers and sisters were listening to. But this kid, I'll never forget, we were at a little party, probably a little young to be at a party, but I was at a party, and he put in Ronnie James Dio, Holy Diver. Uh-huh. And that was the first time I had heard that kind of music, that harder, edgier rock. Ronnie James, Holy Diver, Hanging from the Cobwebs in Your Mind, and the guitar riffs and the stuff. And I was like, what is this? I mean, I got to know more about this. Mm. And of course, that exposed me to, that's where from there on, that's when I got exposed to the harder rock. And I'm talking like a little bit, the 80s, the real popular 80s stuff wasn't quite going yet, but I didn't know there was an Ozzy Osbourne. I certainly didn't know there was a Black Sabbath before an Ozzy Osbourne. And I didn't know there was a Judas Priest. And I didn't know there was, that kind of harder rock. which developed into more of a glam heavy metal rock, Motley Crue and Poison and all that stuff came after. And I was, that was easily exposed to that, but I never heard anything quite like that yet. And that changed the course of my music taste for a while.
I'd say so. And how do you think the music you were exposed to at that time has molded you into the musician you are today?
So that, I have a sound, and my sound, if you will, got molded from the music I liked, which was rock, classic rock, and then a little bit harder rock and, 80s rock, which is what I liked. But my TV show, when I start, my outdoorsiness and my bow hunting that led to me making a bow, that led to me having a TV show, that world's very country. So the artists that wanted to work with me, that watched my show, a lot of those guys were hunters and they were country artists. And then I wrote with the Davison Brothers band. We wrote a song, and their producer, Doug Grau, who worked at Warner Brothers Nashville, signed and developed Travis Tritt, Little Texas, David Ball, worked with Jeff Foxworthy, produced the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, obviously the Davison Brothers. The Davison Brothers said, hey, we've written this song. Why don't you let our producer produce it, and we'll have you come in and sing on it, and we'll let the producer do it. And that's how I met Doug Grau. So when my music went viral, Doug's the one who said to me, hey, you should come to Nashville and we should put you with some writers, some good writers, and help you make a real record, because you've got a fan base buying your music, obviously. And he was trying to politely say, if they'll buy the, mediocre songs you've written, you let me get you with some writers, they'll buy this, some really good music we could make together. So now I'm back to your question. Sorry, I drifted off course there. The question is, how did my sound develop? So I wanted to rock. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get it. However, my producer is as country as cornbread. I mean, that's the music he's developed. And he's saying to me, Andy, I don't have inroads into the music that you're thinking. I've got inroads over here. So we've got to take what you want to do and what I know how to do, and we've got to find a way to meet in the middle. And where we met, if I had to put a label on it, was, country rock, Southern rock. And so you'll hear one of our staple songs, and one of the first songs we had that gained a lot of popularity, Rebel, What We Do for Fun Around Here, Haven't Got a Hellraiser, You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet. Those Country Girls Got Game comes very much back to more of a Southern rock sound and feel, with maybe a little Andy Ross on it.
I was just going to say, it's not, your sound isn't strictly country. For anyone that's listening now that hasn't heard your music before, if they're thinking like the likes of Garth Brooks and, the typical country, that's not it at all. It's like a really cool sort of rock meets country.
Well, thank you. That's where we landed, and that's the recipe that seemed to work for us. And it made me happy as an artist and a musician. It was a great choice for me to listen to Doug, because the music I'm making, the music I was digging at the time, really isn't popular at the moment necessarily. It's moved on to something else that's even heavier than what I care for. And, he landed me in a good spot. And, to Doug's credit, we're finishing an album right now called You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet. It'll be my fourth album of music. And, he'll still reel me back in to, we got to make an Andy Ross record. And I'll bring him, something that I've demoed, that I wrote with, I've demoed. And he's like, yeah, I get that. And, it does sound like one of them. It's a great song, and it's got one of them, 80s rock anthem sounds to it. But, what if we, let's pull it back into to what you do, and that everybody likes what you do, and he'll produce it and cut it, when we cut the tracks and stuff. And, something I've never done on my new single, All American Heart, I think that's the first song that I've ever had a fiddle put on. There's a couple violin fiddle parts in it, which is new to me. But Doug's done a good job of keeping us on track.
And when it comes time for you to make a new record, make a new song, what is the process like? Do you lock yourself away to come up with the ideas, or is it more of a collaborative effort?
So I've got a group of guys that I've come accustomed to writing with. Porter Howe, you might know him from Little Texas fame. God Bless Texas, Amy's Back in Austin, Kick a Little, What Might Have Been. John McElroy is a very accomplished songwriter here in town. Mark Sutton from Brother Trouble, Chris Davison from the Davison Brothers, Doug Cahan. A group of guys that know how to help me write Andy Ross songs now, because they've been on so many writes with me and recordings that they kind of know where I'm headed. I've got this country rock, patriotic rock and roll kind of thing going, and this brand going around it. And so the process is this: I don't write all year round like a lot of musicians do. I do come all year round. Ideas of songs come to me, and I put them in my notes in my phone, which I back up. And so I've got, when it comes time to start making a record, I've got, 20 or 30 ideas that I think would be good starting places for songs. I go through the list and kind of boil it down. And then let's say I call Porter Howe, and I'll say to him, I'm starting to work on the next record. You got any time to write? Yeah, I can, let's Tuesday of next week, come out, we'll write. And then I'll pick 4 or 5 of the ideas that I'll try to make my top 10 list. And I'll share the ideas with him, because he's not going to give me ideas. He's not going to give me his songs. He's only there to help me, direct me to write a good Andy Ross song, but it's got to be my song. And so I'll share some of the ideas with him, and one of them, one will hit his hot button, and he'll say, "Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's work on that." Because if you take an idea to a co-writer, which in country music, we almost always co-write, sometimes even with 3 writers in the room, a 3-way write. If the guy you're writing with don't like the idea, then he's probably not, going to bring his A game to the table to write it with you, because he doesn't think it's a good idea to begin with. Or he might say, "Oh man, that idea's been written like 10 times. I'm not," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not around country music as much as you, so maybe I haven't heard it." All right, well, what about, and then we'll move on to an idea that hits his hot. Interestingly enough, Porter may not like an idea, but when I go write with Doug Cahan, one of the ideas that Porter didn't like may be the one he liked. He may say, "Oh, I love that idea. Let's write that." And I never want to say, "Yeah, well, so-and-so didn't really care for that." I never say that. I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm excited. Let's see where that goes." So you might, and you might get down the road and beat your head against the wall all day, and it just don't come together, and you scrap the idea, or you may get, 2-3 hours into it, and you really got something started. So you just go through the process, and then when you got your demos all done and written, which usually takes me about 3 months, to write or 2 a week of my ideas. In about 3 months, I've got enough material. And then I'll go play the demos for Doug Grau, and he'll take 14, 16 songs and boil it down to 12, that he really likes, thinks we ought to take into the studio. And then we get the studio musicians, we go in and cut the tracks, and, 10 of those songs will land on the album.
Yeah, yeah. And to jump back a bit to 2013, you released Cold Dead Hand, which led to you appearing on Counting Cars. And for me now, this is one cool thing, because being in Ireland, we don't have access to American cars. And since I was a kid, I've been in love with muscle cars. You actually got your own muscle car made for you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Have you seen the show Counting Cars?
Yeah.
So, Counting Cars, as far as car shows go, is by far one of the most popular car shows here in the States. It's on the History Channel, and it's largely due to its host and creator, Danny Coker, aka the Count. And Danny's a patriot. He's also a musician, by the way. He's an unbelievable musician and tours, and we've done some dates together. But he created this show, Counting Cars, out in Las Vegas. And he's a big patriot, gun guy, Second Amendment guy, freedom guy. And they just contacted me and said, hey, we've got an idea, the Second Amendment muscle car. What would you think about being on Counting Cars and working on a car together? And I'd done enough TV, I'd been on TV for 10 years, and so the idea of it sounded great to me. And I went out and met with them, and it didn't take any time before me and Danny were, we were buds and talking music. They were trying to get us to film and stuff. And we're going down memory lane of songs and different things and talking about tunes of his and mine. But we put the thing together. They built us the Second Amendment muscle car. It's a 69 Corvette. Although they've widened it and done a lot of things to it. It has a 396 small block engine in it, built out with a Heidelberg fuel injection system. I mean, it's muscle car from tip to tip. People ask me all the time about how I like driving it, and I've had the car for handfuls of years. And the truth of the matter is, I probably don't have 500 miles on it.
Right.
In my business, it's become in the Second Amendment world here in the States. It's kind of become the Batmobile of the Second Amendment. And I have a business. And so we take it to the trade shows that I attend and that I make appearances at. And it's a big draw. And I just don't want anything to happen to it. I don't even want to scratch on it because it's so important to my brand and being in the booth at trade shows and stuff. I'll retire it from that here in a year or two and I'll start getting it out in the summer. But right now it's been a show car.
Oh, it's one hell of a beautiful car. If any of the listeners haven't seen it, they have to look it up. It's unreal. But I feel like they're going to be shouting at the speakers now. Ask him what his daily driver is.
My daily driver here in Nashville is I have a 4-door Jeep Rubicon, and it's got a little lift kit on it and tires and wheels and a little work done under the hood. It's not your necessarily stock Jeep. I kept it. I do drive it on the street, so it's not ridiculously modified, but it's wrapped. It's got a really cool, American flag going across it, and says, it's got different little patriotic things in the wrap, and I love it. I drive it. I think the reason I love it so much is because a Jeep, even though it's the 4-door model, they're pretty short wheelbase. And they turn on a dime. And I live in a high-rise building in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. So parking lots and parking garages and traffic, and it does real well in the city and getting in and out of tight spots. So I like my Jeep.
That's another cool thing you guys have over there when it comes to cars. You've got muscle cars and really cool Jeeps. You've surely seen, European Jeeps. They're these little, small, ugly things. Not one thing cool about them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like it. It'll be one of them cars I probably will never get rid of. I'll add another car to the stable at some point, but I'll probably keep this one around for a long time. It's a lot of fun. Take the doors, tops off, go kayaking in the summer. There's a lot of good lakes and rivers around Tennessee and places to go camping and stuff. So it's also, obviously great for that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned your company. I feel like, you keep making these songs and the song leads to something else. Your third album, Time to Fight, and its track Rebel gave birth to your company. Would you like to tell us about the company?
Yeah, now there's a song on Time to Fight called American Rebel, which is actually different than the song Rebel, which was off Cold Dead Hand. But American Rebel we wrote, and wrote that with Porter Howe. And we put it out, and it went viral as a patriotic anthem. And as music has evolved, or I should say the format of music has evolved, obviously when people made albums, you could sell an album and make money. I wasn't involved in the album years, but I was involved in the CD years. So we would produce my album of music and make a CD out of it. We would sell CDs both off the website, at concerts, all the different ways of selling them, and we would make money. Then when iTunes came out, CDs faded away. And in the beginning, when people would pay to download a song on iTunes, you could still make money. We were selling a lot more numbers of songs on iTunes because it was so easy and they could just buy one song. We were selling a lot more music, but not really making any more money. But the music was getting out there more. And it was pretty cool. But then when they went to streaming, the revenue really kind of fell off. I have more people listening to my music today than ever, but the revenue fell off for what you receive as an artist or a musician. And so we decided that we would try to monetize the music and this brand of music that I've developed with some products and actually start a company. And on Time to Fight, we had a song called American Rebel. It was doing really well as a patriotic anthem. We decided, well, why don't we just call the company American Rebel? The music will be the mission statement for the company, and we'll create some products. And we did. And then we created more products, and then more products, and we did some acquisitions, and we just started, the business really started growing because we started off with a fan base, and then we developed a whole new fan base of like-minded people who wanted our products. And as of February of this year, we're now a publicly traded company on NASDAQ.
Oh man!
So I'm definitely wearing the hat of CEO the CEO of a publicly traded NASDAQ company, and at the same time still putting out music and touring and playing. And thankfully, the music and the company are they're both like-minded. So my music promotes the company. The company has products that are in line with the brand of my music. And so one kind of feeds the other. So the two hats I wear aren't that different. If I was creating hard rock music and then manufacturing vacuum cleaners, it would be different.
Yeah.
But I'm making country, patriotic rock and roll, and all of our products are kind of in the 2A space. We make gun safes, concealed carry clothing. We're moving in now to American Rebel e-bikes and some different things, but it's a patriotic brand. I'm playing a patriotic style of rock and roll. And so one hand feeds the other. So two different hats, but they're very similar.
I can't say I've ever come across many musicians that have a company that makes, concealed carry and firearms safe, stuff like that. It's definitely, thinking outside the box when it comes to merchandise.
Yeah. Well, that's, the song Cold Dead Hand, the song, of course, American Rebel, a lot of the music that I do talks about freedoms and the right to bear arms and freedom of speech and, a lot of the stuff. So it only made sense to make products that fit into the mold of what I was singing about. If I talked about something every day, it would make sense that the company I would create and the products I would create would be in line with what I'm talking about every day. And the only difference here is I'm singing about it every day. And now, because of great, opportunities like your show and all the things I get to do, I guess I'm also talking about it. So now I'm talking about it, singing about it. So why wouldn't the products, go right there in line?
Yeah, definitely. And a personal question now, do you ship overseas? Can people in Ireland where I am get them?
We do and have shipped overseas, and we certainly can make some stuff happen under a special request for a fantastic host of a fantastic show. So you just you got my email, so email me what you're thinking, and we'll work something out.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks a million. I'll definitely have to look into that. I'm sure over here we have very different gun laws and stuff like that. We're kind of restricted to 22s, and if it's pistols, it's a 22, and it's mostly just target shooting. So it's not cool like you guys, but I've got a couple of 22 pistols myself. I'm fairly big into the target shooting sport, so I'm so jealous of you guys over there. I'd love a 45 or a 357.
Well, if you come over here, you get a hold of me. I'll take you shooting everything from that to tanks. I got some really cool places and some gun clubs with some special permits that welcome us in. So as far as target shooting, though, I love target shooting with my 22 because number one, I can hit things with it because it doesn't have the big recoil. I'm pretty good with it. Number two, the ammo's cheap in comparison to 45 and so on. So it's a good way to get out there and have some fun and not too hard on your pocketbook.
Yeah, true. And another one I'd love a little insight into as a European, what does it mean to you to be patriotic? Because over here we always hear patriotism and patriotic in America, and it's always linked with the Second Amendment and stuff like that. So what does it actually mean to you to be patriotic?
Well, I think first and foremost, and there's a couple parts to this answer, but the first part would be is we have a constitution over here. And I think patriotic just means being respectful to the Constitution and the way it was written and continuing to believe in what it says, freedom of speech and, right to bear arms are things that are in the Constitution and amendments in the Constitution. So, those things are part of being patriotic. Certainly supporting our military and our veterans that have laid their lives on the line to uphold that Constitution and those rights is patriotic. And I think it's not written in stone anywhere, but, except maybe the Bible, I guess, probably has some stuff in there. But, I think being neighborly, helping a neighbor, helping an elderly person across the street, being respectful to others. And, I think that's also being a good person is patriotic. And I think, hard work's patriotic to work and hold your own and you have a responsibility a little bit to take care of yourself. The country was built on hard-working, red-blooded patriots that worked hard and they were respectful to others and they were honest. It doesn't really say that under the word patriotism or patriotic doesn't really say be honest, but to me that's part of it. It's doing what you can, and we always talk in American Rebel. It's somebody who's we would like for our customer base and our like-minded people. They'd hold the door for someone. They'd help an elderly person across the street, help a neighbor, but at the same time, they're not afraid to defend themselves, their family, or possibly even a room full of total strangers or their country. But I think it's just a well-rounded, person. Yeah.
Have good values, good ideals, stuff like that.
Man, when the values go, everything goes.
True.
You can make all the laws you want, but if a person don't know in their heart, you got to know about 90% of what's wrong and right.
Yeah.
No law says I have to run over and beat that 85-year-old person with the cane to that chair so I can have a chair. I can't get arrested for that, but I know it's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. At this point, we'll dive into concerts. It is concerts that made us after all. So as a concert goer, what concerts do you think have made you?
So there's, I have a variety of concerts that I would put among the best concerts I've seen. And I've seen a lot of concerts. And I've played personally concerts with, as an opening band for bigger bands and, 6 bands on the bill a night, and seen those concerts. But I think the concerts that affected me the most were ones I seen early on, because now they're I've seen so many and I've been involved in them and behind the scenes and all that, it doesn't quite have the same impact on me. And I'll say this too, as it did when I was a kid, but I'll say this too, when I was a kid, we didn't have internet. So when I got to go see Journey or Kiss or REO Speedwagon, you were seeing somebody in person that you may only see that one. I never saw a video. There was not even MTV yet, right? So when I was a teenager, when I was a teenager is when MTV started, but some of them early concerts, there wasn't even MTV yet. And even if there was, I'd seen a video or two. So when I saw someone for the first time, it blew my mind. I didn't know, I hadn't Googled them and seen 27 things on the internet, and, I'd have them on my phone. And I mean, you thought, wow, that's Steve Perry, like in, 47 feet in front of me. That's the real Steve Perry. So it was a big, concerts were a big deal, and they still are. But I'll never forget seeing Rush for the first time. The size of that light show and what they did. Didn't own a lot of this music necessarily, but the concert blew me away. David Bowie Glass Spider Tour.
Oh man.
With Peter Frampton on guitar. I was like, it's kind of one of those shows that I thought, I like some David Bowie, and my buddy's got some tickets, but the concert blew me away. Billy Joel and Elton John, the tour they did where they had their pianos facing, and they did like a dual concert. I saw that 3 times, Billy Joel, Elton John. Amazing. Billy would come out and play a couple of songs, and Elton would come out, and Billy would leave, and Billy would come back, and Elton would come back, and then Billy would come out and play some Elton John songs, and Elton John would play some Billy Joel songs. And then they started playing all these songs together, and they played everything you could think of. They got down to Billy Joel playing Piano Man as a goodbye song. Elton played Candle in the Wind as a goodbye song. They'd been playing for like 2.5 hours. And you thought the thing was over. And they come back out and say, we're really not done, ready to quit yet, but we are out of our songs. And they sat down and they played Chuck Berry, Little Richard, the Beatles, Jerry Lee Lewis. And they played for another 45 minutes of every piano rock song that you could think of. And blew me away. That was an unbelievable concert. Stevie Ray Vaughan was wild. Something different I hadn't seen. Of course, Kiss is bigger than life. All those shows were fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like I'm not surprised you've seen Elton John and Billy Joel 3 times with a concert like that.
Oh, it was fantastic. I saw them at Texas Stadium where the Cowboys played. Not the one they're in now, but the one before that. Just a great concert. And then we can get into after the MTV era, and with obviously the Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses. I liked all those concerts, and Poison and all that stuff. But it just, the more accessible these bands are with the internet and all the things when you're my age, it just gets watered down a little more because you've got so much exposure with them. But when you saw someone for the first and only time you were ever going to see in your life on that stage, when you thought they were bigger than life.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that as well. I remember when I started going to concerts. Now, obviously there was internet and everything, but I feel like it was probably at the end of the time where you put musicians up on a pedestal. My first concert was, I think, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the feeling I had watching them, like it was like as if I was literally watching gods. But nowadays it's kind of, all you have to do is go on YouTube. Like you were saying, you can Google anything and you're more accessible to them.
You can watch the whole concert on YouTube. You can watch the concert online. You can everybody today, that the band that's touring is playing these dates, and someone writes down the order of the songs, and you go to a concert and half the people in the audience got the set list on the phone. They already know the next songs that are coming up, and they've already seen the magic and the pyrotechnics, and because they've seen it all on TV or on from videos and Googling it, or DVDs, even concerts on DVD. So it's just a little watered down in comparison, but you can't expect anyone who's not of my age to understand that, because they didn't live. I'm 56 years old, so I saw concerts before, a lot of your audience, and, the multitude of stuff they have now available to them is really cool. I do it all the time. I pull up concerts on my TV here at my place in Nashville, and I love having the accessibility, but it does kind of diminish the experience because you're not seeing it for the first time live.
Yeah, exactly. And your own shows then, for any listeners that haven't had the chance to catch one of your shows, what can they expect at an Andy Ross show?
We have a variety of shows. I find myself a lot of times opening for larger bands, so I'm on a multiple band tour or night, or we go into places and headline. And obviously, the headlining show, we've got a lot more stage presence and awareness, and then we're kind of trimmed down when we do a 45-minute opening set. And I think that the number one thing that they're going to find if they come to an Andy Ross show, just don't be under the impression you're going to a country show. I promise you, it's a rock show.
Sounds good. Is there a specific gig that you would relive over and over again if you could? A gig you've played?
Yeah, Bristol Motor Speedway for the NRA night race was a big show. Had an unbelievable time playing a show with the Davison brothers, Old Dominion, and Hank Jr. It was a lot of fun. Did a show up at Mountain Fest in West Virginia. Obviously, playing my hometown of Kansas City was one I would do over and over again. And oddly enough, not too long ago, I was in a Kid Rock's bar here in Nashville on Broadway, and a lot of my family was in town for a wedding, and they wanted to go down there, and I went out with them and met them down there. And John Stone and his band was up on Kid Rock's stage, and they said, "Hey, we've got Andy Ross in the house," and they congratulated me on my new single, All American Heart, and they said, "And by the way, we know it. Why don't you get up here and play it with us?" And I think even though that wasn't an Andy Ross concert, to get pulled up there a little spontaneously and having your family there and the place, Kid Rock's bar is not a small bar. It's, packed with a lot of people, and just hearing the response to getting up there when no one, expected it. That was really memorable for me. And just because I had so much family in there, and to see them see people think it was a really big deal that I was getting pulled on stage was really cool. And it was cool for me, and it was cool for my kids.
Yeah, geez, a proper rock star experience, like just showing how much the rock star you are. Not to get too negative now, but is there a concert experience you would say was maybe a bad experience or the worst experience, and how did you overcome it?
Well, we got paid one time to drive up from Chanute to Kansas City to pick up a buddy of mine his parents owned a flower shop, and they had this big shipment of roses. Like, it was right before Valentine's Day, not far ahead of Valentine's Day. It came in by air freight in Kansas City, and we came up to Kansas City to pick them up, and they paid us to come up in this big, I guess you'd call it a minivan today, cargo van or whatever back then. And we got up towards Kansas City, and we found Kansas City KY 102. We were coming up from Chanute, Kansas, the small town I was born and raised. And we heard that AC/DC and Fastway were at Camper Arena that night. And we thought, well, we could go to this concert. I mean, the airport's open 24/7. I mean, right? They don't lock up the airport at night. And we could go to this concert, and then after the concert, we'll go to the airport. So about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, we worked our way to the airport, and we went in the airport. Well, we were just kids. We didn't realize that cargo airport and passenger airport aren't the same thing. So the cargo airport got locked up, but I don't know if they didn't have where they unloaded the stuff and it didn't get back in refrigeration or whatever. But let's just say that was a concert experience that by the time we got back a day and a half, 2 days later with I don't know how much money worth of flowers that probably should have been taken better care of, was not a great experience. I know you're asking for like an experience that happened at the concert. I really haven't had a bad concert experience. I mean, I've been fortunate. I haven't been in a concert where people got hurt or seen people get hurt. I mean, we've had groups that have had to cancel, or maybe the opening band had to cancel, or, but I wasn't in St. Louis when Metallica and Guns N' Roses had their thing. I just haven't been involved in any of that. Thankfully, it's all been good. I love live music. I love going to Lee Brice concerts. A good friend of mine, he's a country artist, and we'll tell you this: if you haven't been to country band concerts, country guys tend to make their shows, even though they're country music, they definitely make them live more like rock shows. They use lights and video and and they play everything a little, just with a little more edge than maybe on the record, with a little more energy that's on the record. And, Lee Brice is the king of ballads and songs that, touch heartstrings. And he's got 5, 6, 7, 8 number ones. Forgive me, Lee, for not knowing the exact amount. But you go see him live, and it's a great, energetic, rock type show as well. So just been blessed to see a lot of great shows.
Yeah. Sounds like a hell of a time anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
And, with your gigs, I love giving the fans and listeners a little insight into your gigs, how you prepare for them. What's your pre-show ritual and your post-show ritual to psych yourself up and to wind down afterwards?
Yeah, now I pretty much do have a pre-show ritual. The after-show ritual could be altered around just by who was at the show, and you have guests at the show, and are there people that you're meet and greet and do different things, and are we going back to the tour bus because we have to hit the road immediately to, in time to get there, get some sleep, got another gig tomorrow, or are we on easy street? Is the bus blocked in? We have to wait for the festival to clear. We got 3 hours to, kind of party and hang out. So the after thing's always a little different, but before the show, we're always at the venue in plenty of time. Usually 80%, 9% of the time we get a sound check. And so I say this to people and they think it's funny, but it's partly funny, but it's true. So I tend to have 3 beers before I go on the show. I like 3, just seems to be like the number that kind of calms me down, and I'm kind of energetic, ready to rock, but I don't want to have 6 or 7 or 8 and not be at my, performance best. So if you think about having 3 beers before you go on the show or before you go on stage, you can't down 3 beers in 10 minutes and go on stage. So about 45 minutes out, I don't really set a timer, but I have a mental timer. I'll crack open the first beer. Now, you got to also remember, when you drink beer, especially if you're going to drink 2 or 3 in a short period of time, you're going to have to use the facilities.
Yeah.
So you got to time that too, right? I mean, you can't down your last beer, go on stage, and by your second song going, I could really stand to take a leak here. So you got to time that. And you don't want to down a bunch of carbonation and get up on stage and maybe you have a burp. You can't have that while you're sick. So you got to handle these 3 beers and think about 2, maybe, toilet trips and how all that works. Yeah. And then, so this 3 beer ritual thing, this 45 minutes to an hour is really a well thought out. And I do like about 15 minutes to myself before I go on. And, 20, 25 minutes out, I start putting on what I'm going to wear on stage, and I'm having probably the second beer, so that's my thing.
Fascinating insight, Sarah. I haven't heard one like that now. Not as much thought goes into drinking beers before a show, I'm sure.
Well, if you're going to play for 90 minutes, you don't want to get up there and think, man, I wish I would have taken a leak before I walked up here. That's not the position you want to be in for 45 minutes.
Be a pretty uncomfortable show, all right.
Yeah. So you gotta work all that out.
Yeah. And before we move on to the last couple of questions, what are your future plans?
So we're working on the latest album, the 4th album of music. Probably going to be called one of the songs on the record is called Lucky to Be Alive. And I think that's what I'm going to call the album. Planning on spring, summer tour dates for sure. Lots of tour dates. And taking off here through, the holidays and the dead of winter. We do have a Christmas song out called Make Christmas Great Again that's currently out. But we'll finish the record and we'll get ready for a spring, summer tour. At American Rebel, we get pretty busy because once we get past Christmas and get into January, the trade show circuit starts. So January will be the SHOT Show out in Las Vegas, which is a big show for us. We got a couple small ones. February, the Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania, big show, 10-day show. The Iowa Deer Classic and some other small shows are mixed in there. The NRA shows will be coming at us in April and May. So we'll have these, our Super Bowl of trade shows is kind of the fall, and spring, summer, I'll be hitting the road, maybe headlining or maybe co-headlining with another band we're kind of talking with right now about how we're going to do this. But spring, summer will definitely be a lot of tour dates. And then we're real bit, also when you have those trade shows coming up, when you have a business and those big trade shows are coming up, that's also when you introduce new product, right? If you're going to roll out a new product, you want to roll it out at the SHOT Show in January and take it to the Great American Outdoor Show in February and so on. So, right now we're working on product design and prototyping and getting things ready for the trade show circuit. So we're definitely keeping busy.
Yeah. Geez, I don't know how you do it. It's back to my opening line of, is there enough hours in the day?
Sometimes I put on a cape and fight crime at night, but normally I try to get some sleep.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And I have to ask as well, is there ever any interest to maybe tour overseas?
I would totally be interested for it if the interest was there to have us come overseas. If we could put something together that made sense, and hopefully for more than just one show, it'd be kind of cost prohibitive to come over just do one show. But if we could put a string of 6-8 shows together and come over and make it all work out, I'd love to come over overseas, and I'd love to come see your beautiful country as well.
Yeah. Hopefully someday it'll happen. If not, hopefully when I make it to the States, I can catch one of your shows and rock out with you.
If you make it over here and you give me any warning at all, we'll make that happen, and we'll also make sure a trip to Nashville happens, and we'll give you the full-blown VIP Nashville experience. And there's a lot of great music in this town. Everybody says it's a drinking town with a music problem.
Sounds like heaven.
Yeah, you'd love it.
Yeah. Right, we'll jump onto the last couple of questions. Everybody gets these, I'm afraid, so you can't get off till you answer.
No problem.
If there was an artist or performer from history you could see in concert for one night only, who would it be?
Prince.
Interesting choice. Why so?
I would say Tom Petty, but I saw him 5 or 6 times. I never saw Prince. I did get exposed and liked his music. I didn't wear it out like my rock records, but I liked it. And then as he's passed, I've seen so many documentaries about how he played all the instruments on the record. And I've also come to learn that Prince is an amazing top 10 guitar player that ever lived. I mean, you don't think of him as a guitar hero, but a lot of people think he's the best guitar player that ever walked the planet. When they asked Billy Gibbons how it felt to be the best guitar player, in rock and roll, he said, "I don't know. You're going to have to ask Prince." If you see any of these things where he sets in with other bands as the guitar player, he's phenomenal. So I've gained all this appreciation for his talent, but I never saw him. I never went to see him when I had the opportunity. And obviously that opportunity's gone. So you're saying from history, Prince, and I might even to go way back, I might even throw Ray Charles in.
2 very interesting concerts to be a hell of a night anyway. And the next one, this is a a strange one. If you could spend 24 hours locked inside a room with any performer from history, who would it be?
From history. You know, Tom Petty comes to mind because I've never been able to master the simplicity and that he played with, but wrote such great songs and such great melody and hits in a simplistic way. Tom Petty would certainly be one that I'd love to pick his brain. Wow. This is probably crazy. I wouldn't mind spending a night with Elvis.
Yeah.
See what Elvis had to say. And you know, I wouldn't mind digging back into some of the old blues players that kind of created that blues rock and roll sound that maybe never had the opportunity to be mainstream. And you know, Robert Johnson and some of that stuff. So I didn't give you one, but I hope that works.
No, that was the perfect answer. Especially you said Elvis. Once you say Elvis, you're good in my books.
Yeah.
And the final one. If there was a song to appear on the soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. I already wrote the song. It's called I Wrote This One Myself. It's off the Time to Fight album. And it's called I Wrote This One Myself. And the meaning of that is that my life wrote the song. If you listen to the lyrics and the verses and the chorus, it's the soundtrack of my life. And the part about it is your life wrote it. You don't get to change it. If you're really writing the song about your life, good, bad, and indifferent. And oh, my life is a song when I'm gone. Hope you all will sing. Hope every line that I write would make you smile when you remember me. Through hard times, wrongs and rights, crazy nights. You know, I might have had some help, but I can't blame no one else. When the last note has been sung, you know, I wrote this one myself. And I haven't played the song live in a while, so excuse the lack of melody there, but I was just kind of throwing those lyrics out for you in part of the chorus. I mean, you wrote it, got to own it.
Yeah. I feel like that's finally I've got like the most perfect, complete answer to that question ever.
Google it. Andy Ross, I wrote this one myself.
I will. I'll take a listen now straight after this interview. Listen, Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed the last hour chatting with you now and getting an insight into your music.
I sure thank you for the opportunity. I hope to be invited back. And please, the invite to get a hold of me if you ever get over here and come to Nashville is it's not a pleasantry. It's a 100% for real invite. I hope you take me up on it.
Calling all you hippies and outlaws, calling all you suits and ties, calling all you prima donnas, you got a little wild child trapped inside. Calling all you cops and robbers, cowboys, Indians, and sidekicks too. Hey y'all, do me a favor, man. Cut loose, everybody's got a little rebel in them. Come on everybody, holler, it's alright. Everybody's got a little devil in them. Help me raise a little rebel hell tonight. Oh yeah. Calling all you men and women, gather round you boys and girls. Calling folks from all religions, all around this great big world. Give me your high and mighty, give me your meek and mild. Lovers, fighters, truckers, and bikers, saddle up, let's ride. Everybody's got a little rebel in them. Come on everybody, holler, it's alright. Everybody's got a little devil in them. Help me raise a little rebel hell tonight. Everybody's got a little rebel in them. Come on, everybody, holler, it's alright. Everybody's got a little devil in them. Help me raise a little rebel hell tonight. Everybody's got a little rebel in them. Come on, everybody, holler, it's alright. Everybody's got a little devil in them. Help me raise a little rebel hell tonight. Everybody's got a little rebel in them. Come on, everybody, holler, it's alright. Everybody's got a little devil in them. Help me raise a little rebel hell tonight. Come on! You gotta be a wild child.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up the Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking. Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.